to egg hatching. This is week 2 with your classroom egg hatching with Abby,
Courtney,
and Haley. And currently, what day is it inside of your egg? We are about a week into this. So inside our fertilized eggs, many parts have been developing or growing. Like our bodies, each of the parts of the growing chick will have a job or function. To understand the parts and functions, we are going to do a dance. On the poster, we're going to go ahead and point out the toes or claws of the chicken. Rooster and then hen. Chickens use their toes to dig in the dirt and find insects and worms to eat. Hens also use their toes to rotate eggs they might be laying on. Toes are for digging. So now we're going to go ahead and move our foot back and forth on the ground as if though you are pawing at the ground. And then as well, you're going to go ahead and repeat after me. Toes are for digging.
Toes are for digging. Okay. Next, we're gonna talk about the spur, which is back here. Chickens can flap and use their spurs to claw at something that makes them feel threatened. So, we can do this by lifting our foot in the air and showing where your spur would be while saying, spurs are for protecting.
Spurs are for protecting.
Feathers are next. Feathers keep the bird warm. They can also be used for looks. Males often have brighter feathers than females. Long tail feathers and the fluffing of feathers can help a bird appear large and scary to a predator that may want to eat the bird. To demonstrate this, push your chest forward while keeping your arms at your side and say, feathers are for warmth.
Feathers are for warmth.
The beak is for pecking. Chickens use their beaks to peck at food. Chickens live in groups and often have a pecking order. The chicken who is the leader may peck at other birds to keep them in line or establish dominance. Baby chicks have a curved part on the end of their beak called an egg tooth that they use to break open their shell and hatch. The egg tooth goes away as the chick grows. Demonstrate by holding your hand like a beak and bob your head and say, beaks are for pecking.
Beaks are for pecking.
Okay. Next is the comb and wattle. Combs are for temperature control. To control our body temperature, we sweat. Instead, chickens have areas of extra flesh called combs and wattles that help regulate their body temperature. Demonstrate by placing your hand on your head, fingers up, and say, combs are for temperature control.
Combs are for temperature control.
Okay.
Now that we've gone over the parts and the job that they do, we're going to put them together in a song. And we're going to do this to a tune that I'm sure you're really familiar with, which is Hokey Pokey. As we call out each part, you're going to review what the part does in the song. So we're going to demonstrate for you. First of all, we're going to do a little bit of review. So toes are for, class?
Digging.
Digging, that's right. So we're going to sing Hokey Pokey with our toes in. If your teacher has space in our classroom, please stand up and maybe move a little bit away from your desk. Make sure you're not touching anybody else because we're going to do some actions with Hokey Pokey. Ready? You put your toes in, you put your toes out, you put your toes in and you shake it all about. You do the funky chicken and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Bok, bok. Okay, everybody get the hang of that? So we're going to call it a part and we're going to ask you what it's for. That's our review, and then we're going to add that to our song. So next is the spurs. So remember, the spurs were on the back of the foot. And what are spurs for, class?
Protection.
That's right, protection. So we're gonna sing. You put your spurs in, you put your spurs out, you put your spurs in, and you shake it all about. You do the funky chicken and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Bok, bok. Okay, how about next are for feathers? Feathers are for
Warmth.
warmth and protection. And in your classroom, we're going to let you go ahead and sing. You put your feathers in, you put your feathers out. So we'll give you a minute to do that. Okay, and then we have beaks. Beaks are for
Pecking.
pecking, that's right. So go ahead and sing. You put your beak in, you put your beak out. And last but not least, we have combs. What are combs and wattles for?
Temperature control.
That's right. So you put your comb in and you put your comb out. And finish up our last verse of Hokey Pokey. Okay. So now that we've learned about the parts and what we will use them for, you did a great job. Go ahead and take a seat as we go ahead and finish up our lesson today. We learned about the parts and we know that our chick is starting to develop. So let's look inside. We're going to pick day 7 here because we know we're about a week into our lesson. Look and see, what does the chick look like when it's about 7 days or about a week old? Yours might be a little more, a little less than that because it depends on when you started your videos. But they're about a week old. Can we start to see any of the parts? And can you help us out, Haley and Abby, since our camera's a little far away? Can you start to see any of the chick's body parts here?
You can start to see the chick's eyes and slowly start to see some of the beak.
Yeah, say the
And
beak.
I'd say it's starting to get some of its wings and partially some of its feet.
Yeah, and I think I see maybe like a little bit of a tail starting.
Yeah.
So you can start to see some of these body parts really quickly. And that means that it's time for us to use a special tool called a candler. And a candler is kind of like a bright flashlight. And you can actually very carefully take the egg and hold it up to the candler, and you can see through there, and light will shine through to be able to see inside the egg and see if a chick is developing and growing. If it's just plain and all you see is the yolk, then that one doesn't have a chick in it. And so it's important to know that sometimes some of our eggs don't have chicks in them. We rarely would have all 7 have a chick in them, but hopefully several in your classroom do. And so this is really something for your teacher to do. You have to be very, very careful not to drop the egg and be very careful with it, or your teacher might ask one of us to come in and assist with that. Either way, but you can start to see inside of the egg, and we'll find some pictures for you to show in this video. You can start to see inside of the egg, and you should be able to see some of the blood vessels developing. Sometimes, depending on how bright it is in the classroom or how the color of the eggshell, it can be difficult to see the individual parts, but you should be able to start to see if there's a chick in the egg, and maybe you can start to see some movement as well. So candling is really exciting because you're going to be able, this is like your first glimpse of being able to see what your baby chick might look like.
Right, so now we're going to do a little bit of a reflection of today's lesson. I'm going to ask you guys a question, and then you guys can go ahead and take a little bit as your class and answer these. So what are some parts of the chicken? So if you want to pause the video and take a break and see if we can all answer, and then we'll come back and answer. Okay, some parts of the chicken are the toes, the spurs, the feathers, the beaks, and the combs. If we got all of those correct, you guys are experts.
My question for you is, how do we know if the chick is alive? At this point in time, we know that our chick is only maybe about a week old. And what was the process, or how did I tell you we could tell if the chick is alive? Does anybody remember? See if somebody at your classroom can remember that. And the answer would be candling. So being able to hold that light up there, we can see, is there a chick in there or not? And maybe you can start to see some movement inside of the egg. You see the chick moving a little bit, or you can see some body parts starting to develop.
And then the last question we have here for you is, have you ever felt a baby kick inside a mother's belly? This is similar to what the baby chick is doing inside the egg that you can go ahead and see.
It was fun to do another week of lessons with you, and we will see you later.
Bye.